Okay, so tons of balance changes. I have just briefly skimmed over these, and I'm very excited. Standard balance changes. First one is Blade Dance going from 2 to 3 cost. Don't like this change. I think it's lazy. I think it doesn't address the actual problem of Blade Dance, and if you get off of Skull of Gul'dan, it's still super strong. I mean, obviously, the nerf is well received, and I'm really happy that they're actually nerfing one of the most problematic cards that people were complaining about to begin with. But I think making it target 2 things and or having it cost your attack that turn, but keeping it 2 mana would have been better. That's just my opinion. Obviously, the developers at Blizzard had a different idea, but I just want to hear what you guys think. Do you think that the nerf I suggested would have been better, which is less targets or using your attack? Because it's not going to matter if they draw off of Skull of Gul'dan. It's going to remain the exact same strength, which is a little bit annoying to me. That's why I just don't like just straight mana changes in general. It's just a little bit lazy of a change. Shardshatter Mystic. This change is exactly what I asked for, basically. This card is a card where the mana was the problem. Basically, making it go to 4 mana is very balanced because it slows you down a little bit as a Demon Hunter, which means that if you're playing against an aggro deck, you can't just drop this turn 3 and immediately shut down an aggro deck. You actually have a little bit of, you're vulnerable for a little bit of time because you're not able to kill it immediately. So you have to either somehow stall out the board one more turn in some other way, or just take a buttload of damage and try to come back, which basically just means that it's a little bit weak to aggro now, which is, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted from this card. I said I wanted to be nerfed by 1 mana. Perfect. Dreadlord's Bite, 3 attack, becoming a 2/2 weapon. See, I had mixed feelings about this card. I think that this card could have been balanced if they just made this say deal damage to all enemy minions and keeping the 3/2 stat line. Because, like, it did have to be outcast, which didn't happen every single time. It does limit it a little bit to some extent. Sorry, I'm not looking at the chat right now. I'm mostly looking at this. We'll look at the Brann in a second. But Dreadlord's Bite, I don't really like this nerf. I think that there were other more problematic cards in Aggro Demon Hunter. I don't really like the way that they chose to nerf this. I don't know, it just feels weird to me, because I never really thought that this card was a major problem in the deck, because overall for 3 mana it would do a lot of damage, but I feel like, so no, I do think it was a problem, but I feel like it could have just said deal 1 damage to all enemy minions and it would have been balanced. I mean, a 2/2 is still good. I still think that making it 2/2 is the next best thing, in my opinion. I mean, at its current state, it did a ton of damage to everything and only did 1 less total damage than Marrow Slicer. So I do think that nerfing it was needed. It just feels weird to play a 3 mana 2/2 weapon. Like a 3 mana 2/2 anchor that gives you a ton of card draw and like huge synergy with the deck. Now that's one thing, but this is just an aggressive card that's just becoming strictly less aggressive. Like, I would honestly probably run the lifesteal weapon over this at this point. Personally, like, that's just what I would do. Brann going from 7 cost to 8 cost. I think this really hurts Highlander Hunter. But I'm very glad that they're making this change, and here's why. Highlander Hunter's a deck that does best against slower decks. Its weakness is aggro decks, and I guess Soul Demon Hunter because it's more like mid-range but a lot of burst. So the fact that they're nerfing Demon Hunter a ton, they're nerfing this a little bit proactively, rather than having it be busted for a while and then needing it to nerf it after it's busted. So even though Highlander Hunter is already extremely strong, and Brann probably should have been nerfed a while ago, the nerf being timed now, I think just really goes well with the Demon Hunter nerfs because it slows down, it slows this down just a little bit. And it makes it so that it won't just rise to become the #1 deck by far. It'll still be a strong deck. It'll just be a little bit weaker because your finisher won't come until a 1 turn later, which is very nice. Although, as a Hunter player, someone who's played Hunter for a long time, this is a little bit sad to see. It hurts a little bit, but I also understand. Like, this card needed to be nerfed. Voracious Reader, becoming a 3 cost card. I like that. I think that as a 2-mana 1/3 and being able to draw a ton of cards, it was just a bit too easy to play. Making it cost a little bit more makes it a little bit harder to just dump your hand. I actually like Voracious Reader because I think that aggro decks should be strong, or at least good enough. Because if you don't have any aggro decks, it's just going to be nothing but ridiculous OTKs and combos and just who can draw better. So if you have aggro decks in the meta, like I've said, there's this triangle, right? Aggro decks, it's like rock, paper, scissors. Aggro decks beat combo, combo beats control, control beats aggro. If you take aggro out, everyone just plays control because it beats, everybody just plays combo because it beats control. And since there's no aggro to keep everything in check, it's just a nothing but combo deck meta. So I think that Voracious Reader shouldn't be nerfed to the ground. And I don't know if this is too harsh or not. I feel like if it was, no. Yeah, I think that this is a fine enough card to, like, a fine enough way to nerf it. Because this card's so powerful. It's one of those cards where you either nerf it too much and it's unplayable, or it's just way too strong. And in this state, it was too strong. In this state, I think it might be pretty balanced, but it might be a little bit weak. But it'll still see play, obviously. But Polkelt being 5 cost is kind of a nerf, but at the same time is also low-key a buff. And let me explain to you why. It's a buff for Demon Hunter, because Demon Hunter wants to play Skull of Gul'dan turn 6 right after playing Polkelt. And that means turn 4 you can dump some cards, then play Polkelt, and then top deck Skull of Gul'dan, drop it, boom. As opposed to having to wait a turn, and maybe if you already have a Skull of Gul'dan in your hand. I mean, obviously it's a nerf, and I'm thinking of like absolute worst case scenario, but I could see some situations where this nerf is actually a little bit better than it is in its current state. Obviously, in almost every other situation, it's worse. It's worse in a ton of different decks. It's worse in Hunter now, especially with the Brann nerf. It's still a worse card in general, and its stats are a little bit worse, which makes it a little bit better. And if you slow down the Polkelt turn by 1, you might end up drawing 1 card you don't want at a certain time, which could disrupt, like, your consistency of drawing the important cards. So obviously this is a good nerf, and when it comes to the nerfs that they were targeting, I actually like every single card they targeted, and liked 1, 2 of their nerfs, 3 of their nerfs a lot. This one's kind of weird. I feel like they could have gone with something different, maybe making it 6 cost, so that way you can't just play this into Skull of Gul'dan, making it like a 6-mana 5/5, so that way it's like a little bit more clunky to play. Because it's still going to be really strong at 5 mana, and I can see this card being a problematic card for the entirety of next year. Like, this card's always going to be a card in combo decks and will always see play, and I want to see this card nerfed a little bit more. This card did need a nerf, was a little bit of a weird nerf, and same with this one. I don't really like it, but I do like all of the cards that were nerfed. I agree with at least some of the decisions Blizzard made and the developer team made on this, and they probably went through a lot more testing and a lot more numbers than I am off the top of my head, and these are probably more balanced than what I was suggesting, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts, because honestly, this is kind of just, I don't know. I like it. I like the nerfs. I think that they're cool. I like the targets. I just don't think the cards were that good. And then these are all just duels changes, which I don't play, and then above is Battlegrounds changes, which I don't play, and it's going to be a huge change. It's going to be a huge shift in the meta, and I'm super duper excited, and it might make Hearthstone pretty fun again.